Rat-tat-tat-tat, we dropping sugars on that SMATS. In this episode of Chop and Brew, a brew day and tasting notes chat for the second of our Big Brew Day 2025 recipes. This is SMATS Mild Ale. Hello everyone and cheers from Chop and Brew HQ. I am Chip Walton as we quickly approach Big Brew Day 2025. Once again, we've started this annual tradition of putting out a couple of extra recipes along to supplement the AHA's recipes. This year, they're just doing the one recipe suggestion. It's a big old barley wine. In the face of that, we like to put out some like lower gravity, usually spring-friendly beer since it's always the first Saturday in May. This is the SMATS, y'all. Single malt and 2 sugar mild. I also call it AKA my 2 shugs mild. We'll tell you what that single malt and those 2 sugars are momentarily. But first I want to tell you that the inspiration for this beer came from a local pro brewer here in St. Paul, or a brewery, Bad Weather Brewing Company. They put out something very similar last summer, and Andy Rulin, their head brewer, was nice enough to hook me up with the recipe. So we kind of use that as a roadmap. And then I go and buddy up with Andy, and we talk about the brewery's version, my small scale variant, and some other general chit chat about British pub ales. If you like what you hear in this episode and you want to brew this beer yourself, check out the recipe for SMATS Mild Ale in the video description below. There you'll also find the recipe and brew day video for our second Big Brew Day 2025 homebrew recipe, and that is SmoKo, a smoked Kolsch-Style ale, a very lovely, lightly smoky, crisp beer that I worked on with Adam Mills from the YouTube channel Adam Makes Beer. That features Weyermann Barca Pils, Weyermann Oak Smoked Wheat, and Imperial Yeast G03 Dieter, their Kolsch ale strain. I hope you'll brew one or both of these on Big Brew Day, and if you do, definitely tag us in your Brew Day photos and videos, and definitely check back in and let us know how they turn out. Before we dive in, a quick reminder that this and all Brew Day episodes of Chop and Brew are brought to you with support from Imperial Yeast. They've been an awesome partner on all of these Big Brew Day side quest recipes for the last couple of years. Check out all their strain offerings at imperialyeast.com. We also get a lot of help from a rad group of supporters, the crew of Chop and Brew, by way of Patreon. Join them at patreon.com/chopandbrew. We're back here at Bad Weather Brewing. End of a production day, almost the opening of tap room.
Cleaning day.
Oh.
Shining tanks and making things all spiffy for the next couple weeks.
It's the real part of brewing.
That's the real part, yeah. The untold part, I guess you could say. Cleaning.
Here at Andy Rulin, we're talking mild ales. This is the recipe that we're putting out there for Big Brew Day. I'm calling it a SMATS mild, single malt and 2 sugars.
Hey.
As it turns out, it was supposed to be 2 malts, but I kind of missed that. So basically, Andy had a beer similar to this on tap maybe like 2 years ago, last year.
Summer,
okay.
I think, yeah.
I was really intrigued by it, especially once he told me that it had molasses and brown sugar. These beers can often traditionally have invert sugar, so I was like, oh, this is a cool rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So I thought I would brew it for myself. It's also like just a low alcohol beer going into spring.
Yep.
Not too big for Big Brew Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me about just like milds in general and like your pub ale kind of philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, we've brewed several milds or pub ales or ordinary bitters from almost day one. So I don't know, I just kind of lean to the classics, you could say. And one of our former brewers first introduced us using invert sugar back when it was easier to get.
Okay.
It's a lot harder to find domestically now, but historically that's how a lot of those beers are made, with malt and then some sort of an adjunct supplement, usually an invert sugar or other forms of fermentables. So we've used a couple types of invert in the past and no invert, and then this most recent one was blackstrap, molasses, and brown sugar.
And one of the milds I had before, I can't remember, was it a dark mild you had maybe 2 or 3 years ago?
Dark mild would have had invert in
okay.
it. Yep.
Like the invert 3 that helps
invert
give it
3.
that color?
Yep, that was invert 3.
So when you guys had this mild, did you just call it like adjunct mild, or was it just called mild? I can't remember what its name was, but
Man,
I feel like it gave kind of a hint that there was sugars in it.
I think we just called it a mild. When we were selling it, obviously we talked about the sugars we use. We called it just a mild. Okay. English session ale is what we went with to make it more universally more accepted.
Yours was Chevalier flaked barley.
Yes. Yep.
Chevalier is a very characterful malt.
It is very, very much that. So lanyard variety from Crisp. It has what do they say? It's like a souped up Maris Otter almost. So
right.
Bready and they say marmalade flavors and characteristics, which we absolutely got in the beer itself. So
right.
Which was quite a nice compliment to the sugars. So
what else did you find? The molasses and the dark brown sugar, because people are always like, it just ferments all the way out. You're like, there's no way molasses is leaving no character behind.
I would say it was very minor, so it definitely added color for us. So we did some kind of mini titrations throughout the boil to get kind of a color we were looking for. I would say between the two, it kind of added some toasted notes to the beer. That would probably be my prominent descriptor when we brewed that. So I mean, on its own in its neutral state, just from the boil, I mean, couldn't really taste it was just more of a pretty neutral malt. And then yes, obviously the unfermented wort had some strong flavors, but then once it fermented out, I would say the residuals would probably be my kind of toasty characteristics. Yeah.
So in my version, taking his numbers and his kind of roadmap, it ended up being 85% Simpson's Best Pale Malt, so a Maris Otter, already a little bit less rich than Chevalier, but also, I mean, it's Maris Otter. It's biscuity, it's toasty in itself. 7% brown sugar, which is about 8 ounces for my batch, and 7% molasses, also 8 ounces. Northdown hops, you had used EKG. I had a perfect amount of Northdown hops to get me to those that kind of suggested like 14-ish IBU. I think you even said 10.
I think, yeah.
But I wanted to aim a little higher just in case it came out kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Imperial Yeast Pub, they're like, it's called Pub for a reason. It's the kind of strain to make these beers. It was like 1039 to 1008, so 4.1. I really enjoy this. I'm not gonna lie and say I don't get the slightest bit of diacetyl, but I feel like it literally only lasts a sip. It's like just that first sip.
It's not unpleasant. Like,
right.
It's a big kind of diacetyl, but
I mean, Czech lagers and pub ales are two of the places where you're like, it's okay. To me, it's almost like a buttered toast. It's not like butterscotch or fakey. And again, like after that first sip, once in my palate, like, okay, let's get past it. Then I'm like, oh, I get
you can kind of dive into it a little bit after that. It's not overpowering, unpleasant like a slickness that diacetyl can add. It's none of that. It's just
not to throw my own beer under the bus, but I would say a diacetyl rest is not something I really did because it was already in the mid 60s, but I was rushing this for the point of like getting these recipes to turn around and to be able to talk about them before May 3rd. So beyond that, I definitely get like this really nice toast. I get that molassesy kind of treacle, just very caramelized sugar.
I can see that. Yeah.
I get this odd blueberry thing when I've had it. Just this kind of like blue fruit, which to me is like blueberry. Maybe a little plummy kind of fruity note.
Sure, I can see that. Yeah.
I can't remember the Northdown description, but I also remember thinking like that sounds. I think it was almost like cedar, earth.
Okay.
Maybe a little woody.
I've never used Northdown.
And a lot of this hop, I mean, 3/4 of it is in the steep in the whirlpool, which was an idea you had.
The hops?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a complementary bitterness and more maybe an aroma that you're getting. You don't really want the hops to be the outlier, the prominent characteristic, just kind of something that would complement.
I mean, what are you looking for with a beer like this? What are you saying to people by having a 3.5% beer on amongst hazy IPAs and fruited sours?
Sessionability, drinkability. You could have several of these, just knock them back. And, that's kind of what they're tailored around is, not just a one and done kind of beer. You have a few and you don't feel the effects of like one strong high ABV beers. So because it's, you know, they're low in alcohol, but they still have a lot of flavor. You know?
Yeah.
You're enjoying that sensory experience. You know, that's where I go with these kinds of beers, is the drinkability, which I hear a lot with lager beer, but same thing with these session ales from the UK.
So roasted barley, having missed that at some point in our conversation, I can see where that might help the body a little bit, but I don't think this drink's super thin either, which is nice.
I don't think so at all. I mean, I think part of that is with the base malt. I mean, you know, a lot of those malts from Crisp and Simpsons, those base malts are very strong malt forward malts. You know, you're going to get that in the flavor of the beer.
It's not residual sweetness, it's the impression of sweetness through the flavor of a thing that you often think of as being kind of sweet. Was this so much a workaround for lack of invert, or was it really just...
It was kind of both. So it was definitely invert, hard to find, but then I thought, what the hell, we've never used blackstrap molasses before, let's give it a shot. So and we happened to have some, we had some brown sugar here. I don't remember what, for something, it was like a bag. I was like, well, let's just get some more of this and just give it a shot. So yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where never used it, wanted to try it. We thought, why not? So, and honestly, like when it went down to looking into buying blackstrap molasses, was not as expensive as I thought it would be. Like when I went into buying, because we used a 5-gallon pail
versus like syrup or honey or something.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is actually something we can build into this recipe and not kind of break the bank per se. So that was another factor. It always is with building recipe is cost. So
yeah,
I would say for me, in my experience, we've probably gotten more overall flavor from the inverts, I would say, in the past. So
an invert sugar, I'll put a link below of kind of some discussion of it, how to make it. I actually shot, I don't know if you know Tall Ross Winberg from the St. Paul Club. I shot him making it, and this is like probably 6 years ago. It's like on the long list of things that I shot and never got around to editing, but it was really cool to watch. And he did it like 1, 2, and 3, and like
all 3
streaked it so that by the end of the session on a white plate, you could kind of see that intensification of color.
That's cool.
So it's very much like Belgian candy sugar, right?
Yeah.
It's just like it gets darker and darker and darker.
Yep.
I will say, as I was brewing this, when I drained it, the wort was kind of golden-y.
Okay.
Even putting those 2 sugar additions in, like, made it like, oh, now it looks kind of more like amber.
Sure.
Getting into like light brown. It was like very noticeable, very quick. So without that molasses, I think this would be way more just like, I wouldn't say straw, but you know,
kind of a deeper gold. I mean, I think with ours it was we used almost 12% molasses in the extract.
Oh, okay.
And then about 5% brown sugar is what we landed.
Okay. So whereas I split it, your kind of was higher.
We were higher in the molasses.
Okay. We'll leave that note.
Just thinking back mentally, I know ours was definitely a little darker than this one. I feel like it was more of a deeper gold, almost bronze maybe tint to it is what we had. So
it was getting towards dark mild.
Yes. Yep.
Didn't have that lovely kind of burnt bread crumb brownness to it.
Yeah.
These are beers that are also really good on nitro. We should say.
Nitro, yeah.
I mean, because over there they're on hand pulls.
Nitro or cask,
which isn't nitro, but nitro does a close.
Yeah, kinda. Like it's a
way to take the edge off a little bit.
It does, yeah. Nitro would be. We almost always have these on nitro. So.
Or you'll do them in cask. And
or
like
cask.
Dry hop them with more EKG.
100%.
These are definitely cask friendly. That was kind of when I started this project. I still have that one for the pin, and you gave me a bunch of the spiles and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I was like, dude, I don't know what's in that thing. That thing needs like a deep. So.
Is it full?
No.
But okay.
It needs a real clean.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a cleaner, or do you just like?
We soak them in caustic and then rinse and then sanitize.
I just thought it'd be cool to put a fun recipe out there. You know, I know the AHAs, they do like our suggested recipe for everyone in the world to brew that. It's like a giant barley wine.
Is that what it is?
It's like a 12% barley wine. I was like, okay, how about something that people can turn and burn like very quickly and enjoy this, the smoked Kolsch, is also not is like lowish alcohol. So I was like, let's throw out 2 spring-friendly, like seasonal beers to get people back into brewing mode for the summer.
There you go.
Don't have to wait till December to drink it.
Or if you're really motivated, you could do barley wine and then second runnings, small beer. There you go.
Look, now, see, I should have called AJ. I should have been like, I have an idea. Let's do a story about second runnings.
Yeah,
but that's
buddy.
a great point.
That'd be fun to
if
try.
you make that barley wine, get that do a second rinse, or just do whatever you got to do to get like. This was 1039. It could have even been lower. I think you said yours was 1036.
Well, I'm at
Bricks mode.
I'm in Plato and Bricks. Where it was a 9 Plato beer, so
1036-ish. Yeah.
I don't know the math.
So yeah. Even this could have been even smaller than its 4.1 stature.
Yeah.
ABV.
Exactly. Yep. There you go.
All right, y'all. Recipe below. Shout out to Bad Weather for always sharing so much information.
Anytime.
Shout out to AJ. Brew that barley wine. Make them mild. Have some molasses.
Yeah.
And sugar on hand to help you both get a little bit up in gravity with like color changes. Check out the links below for related articles. And if you're seeing this years from now and I've edited that invert sugar making video, that link will be. This is kind of like. This is all be like inspiration. I need to actually like dig that up and find
it. There you go.
Because Ross also had like a document with like the full process. Like,
oh wow,
you can find that other places, but he's very meticulous about things. Nice. So he had a great process kind of breakdown. So.
Oh cool.
All right, chop for chop, mild for mild. Whoop.
Cheers.